The sleeping giant awakens. The void between stars had witnessed many extinctions, but none quite like what the Nexari Empire brought to every world they touched. For 3,000 years, they had swept across 12 galaxies like a plague of metal and fire. Entire civilizations vanished in mere days. Species that had reached for the stars found themselves scattered as dust among them. The Nexari were perfect conquerors. Their ships moved as one mind, their strategies flawless, their technology centuries ahead of most species they encountered. They did not negotiate, did not take prisoners, did not show mercy. They simply consumed everything useful and obliterated the rest. Planet after planet fell before their advance, each victory adding to their vast collective consciousness. In the Kepler sector, the remnants of 17 different species had tried to form an alliance. The Altharians brought their energy shields, the Kelrathi offered their plasma cannons, and the Zephyrians contributed their fastest ships. It should have been enough. It wasn't. The combined fleet lasted exactly 4 hours and 23 minutes, against a single Nexari battle group. Overlord Zethkar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Annihilator, watching the last enemy vessel crumble into burning fragments. His elongated skull housed a brain directly connected to 10,000 other Nexari minds, all thinking as one, all working toward the same goal. Through the massive viewing port, he observed the familiar sight of victory, debris scattered like dying stars, emergency beacons crying uselessly into the dark. The conquest had been almost disappointing in its ease. These organic species always made the same mistakes, fought the same predictable battles, died the same inevitable deaths. Sometimes Zethkar wondered if there would ever be a challenge worthy of the Nexari Empire's attention. Overlord, came, a voice from behind him. Sub-Commander Hexra approached with the mechanical precision all Nexari shared. Long-range sensors detect an anomaly in the outer system, a vessel of unknown configuration. Zethkar's compound eyes shifted toward the QR tactical display. The ship appeared as a small blip drifting near a dead gas giant. Its design was unfamiliar, primitive-looking, but there was something about its energy signature that seemed different. Species identification? Zethkar inquired. Unknown. The vessel appears to be in minimal power mode, possibly derelict. Shall we dispatch scouts to investigate? Zethkar considered. In 3 millennia of conquest, they had encountered over 400 distinct species. All had fallen within days, sometimes hours. This ship, whatever it was, would be no different. Send 3 scout vessels. Standard analysis protocol. Far from the Nexari fleet, the ESS Defiance hung motionless in space like a sleeping predator. The ship was angular and utilitarian, built for war rather than beauty. Scarred metal told stories of battles fought long ago, while dark viewports revealed nothing of the life that might exist within. Deep in the ship's core, Captain Elena Cross floated in a stasis pod filled with blue nutrient fluid. At 42, she had been one of Earth's youngest starship commanders, leading humanity's desperate evacuation from their dying solar system. Now, 50 years later, automated systems began the careful process of bringing her back to consciousness. The first sensation was cold. Then came the taste of copper and the feeling of drowning in reverse. Elena's eyes snapped open, her body convulsing as the pod drained and atmospheric processors kicked in. Training took over. Breathe. Assess. Survive. Status report, she croaked, her voice barely recognizable after decades of silence. Welcome back, Captain. The voice belonged to Aria, the ship's artificial intelligence. Unlike the cold digital voices common in the galaxy, Aria sounded almost human, warm with subtle emotional inflections. Stasis revival successful. Current date, March 15th, 2387. You have been unconscious for 51 years, 7 months, and 4 days. Elena pulled herself from the pod, muscles screaming in protest. Around her, other pods were beginning their revival sequences. Dr. Marcus Webb, her chief science officer, Lieutenant Sarah Chen, the best tactical officer Earth had ever produced, Chief Engineer Ravi Patel, who could make miracles happen with scrap metal and determination. What woke us up? Elena asked, pulling on her uniform with practiced efficiency. Long-range sensors detected massive energy signatures consistent with active warfare, multiple unknown vessels approaching our position. Based on the destruction, patterns in surrounding systems, I believe we are facing a hostile alien force. Elena's blood ran cold. They had fled Earth hoping to find safety among the stars, to build a new home for the remnants of humanity. Instead, they had awakened to find themselves in the path of another war. How many humans are left? She asked quietly. Current ship population? 847 souls. We are likely the last humans in the galaxy. The weight of that number settled on Elena's shoulders like a physical burden. Less than 1,000 people, all that remained of a species that had once numbered in the billions. She thought of Earth's blue skies, of children playing in parks that no longer existed, of cities that had crumbled to dust while she slept. Captain, Dr. Webb's voice interrupted her thoughts. The tall, bearded scientist was pulling himself from his own pod, looking disoriented but alert. What's our situation? We're about to have company, Elena replied grimly. Arya, show me what we're dealing with. The holographic display materialized in the center of the revival chamber, showing 3 sleek vessels approaching their position. Each ship was nearly twice the size of the Defiance, their hulls gleaming with advanced technology. They moved with perfect coordination, like fingers of the same hand. Nexari scout ships, Arya identified. Based on intercepted communications, they belong to an empire that has conquered multiple galaxies. Their technology appears significantly advanced. Lieutenant Chen had joined them, her dark eyes sharp with tactical awareness. Weapons, unknown, but energy readings suggest capabilities far beyond our current systems. Elena felt the familiar calm that came before battle settle over her. She had faced impossible odds before. Humanity had been facing impossible odds for centuries, and they were still here. Wake the senior staff. All hands to battle stations. Lieutenant Chen, I want options for defensive strategies. Dr. Webb, I need you to analyze their technology. Chief Patel. She turned to the engineering chief, who was already checking his diagnostic tablet. Can we fight? Ravi looked up with a grin that didn't quite hide his concern. The Defiance has been sleeping, but she's not dead. Weapon systems are operational, shields are holding, and I've got a few modifications I've been wanting to try. Good. Area, have they detected us yet? Negative, we remain in minimal power mode. They appear to consider us a derelict vessel. Elena smiled for the first time since awakening. Then let's give them a surprise they'll never forget. Aboard the lead Nexari scout ship, Sub-Commander Krevta studied the readings from the unknown vessel. The ship's design was crude by Nexari standards, built with primitive metals and basic energy systems. Its occupants, if any remained alive, would pose no threat to the Empire. Life signs? He asked his scanning operator. Minimal. Possibly automated systems maintaining basic functions. The vessel appears to have been derelict for several decades. Krevta nodded. Another extinct species, another failure to resist the Yao. Inevitable. Still, the ship might contain useful resources or technology. Prepare boarding parties. Standard salvage protocol. As the Nexari scouts closed the distance, the Defiance seemed to shimmer slightly. Elena stood on the bridge, watching the tactical display with the patience of a hunter. Around her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, preparing for a battle none of them expected to survive. They're slowing down, Chen reported. It looks like they plan to board us. Let them get closer, Elena said calmly. Arya, are all systems ready? All weapons charged, shields at maximum capacity. Emergency protocols activated. Dr. Webb, what have you learned about their ships? The scientist looked up from his analysis station, excitement mixing with concern in his expression. Fascinating. Technology, Captain. Their hulls seem to be composed of some kind of adaptive metal, and their energy weapons operate on principles I've never seen before. But? They're overconfident. Their shield harmonics suggest they're not expecting any real resistance. Their formation is perfect for overwhelming primitive opponents, but it has weaknesses. Elena turned to Chen. Can we exploit those weaknesses? The tactical officer's smile was predatory. Oh yes, Captain. These aliens have never fought humans before. They don't know how we think. The lead Nexari scout was now close enough that individual hull details were visible. Elena could see the perfect symmetry of its construction, the elegant curves that spoke of advanced engineering. It was beautiful, deadly, and completely unprepared for what was about to happen. All hands. This is the captain, Elena announced over the ship's communication system. We are the last humans in the galaxy. Today we show the universe that extinction is not our destiny. Today we remind everyone why humanity reached for the stars. She paused, thinking of Earth, of all the people who had died believing their species was finished. We are not going gently into that good night. We are going to fight, and we are going to win. The Nexari scouts continued their approach, sensors focused on the apparently helpless human vessel. They had no idea they were flying into the awakening of humanity's greatest strength, the absolute refusal to surrender when everything seemed lost. The sleeping giant was about to open its eyes. When determination meets destiny, the first shot fired by human hands in over 50 years lit up the darkness like a newborn star. The Defiance's main plasma cannon struck the lead Nexari scout ship directly amidships, sending waves of disrupted energy cascading across its adaptive hull. For the first time in 3,000 years of conquest, a Nexari vessel staggered under. Unexpected attack, direct hit, Chen called out, her fingers dancing across the weapons console. Their shields are fluctuating. Elena gripped her command chair as the ship shuddered from return fire. The Nexari had recovered quickly, their perfect formation shifting to surround the human vessel. Energy beams lanced through space, striking the Defiance's shields with enough force to illuminate nearby asteroid debris. Shields down to 70%, Ravi reported from engineering. But the modifications I made during our long sleep are working. We're absorbing and redirecting 20% of their energy back into our own systems. Elena allowed herself a moment of pride. Even facing extinction, humans found ways to adapt, to turn disadvantage into opportunity. It was what made them dangerous. Area. Communications to all Nexari vessels. Open channel. Channel open, Captain. This is Captain Elena Cross of the Earthship Defiance. You have entered human space without permission. Leave now, or we will be forced to destroy you. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of systems and the distant rumble of plasma cannon recharging. Elena knew the message was largely pointless, but she wanted the Nexari to understand they were not dealing with another helpless species. The response came in perfect, cold English. This is Sub-Commander Krevta of the Nexari Empire. Your species is unknown to us, but your resistance is futile. Surrender and your deaths will be swift. Dr. Webb looked up from his scanner readings, excitement clear in his voice. Captain, I'm detecting something interesting. Their communication systems are linked to a central processing node. They're not just coordinating their ships, they're sharing thoughts in real time. A hive mind, Elena realized. They think as one entity. Which means, Chen added with growing understanding, they can't adapt to individual tactical decisions the way we can. Elena smiled grimly. The Nexari had conquered hundreds of species, but they had never faced humans. They had never encountered a species that thrived on individual creativity, on the chaos of multiple minds working together without losing their independence. All hands, new battle plan. We're going to show them the difference between thinking as many and thinking as one. Lieutenant Chen, implement pattern Omega-7. Omega-7 I. Chen's response was immediate, but Dr. Webb looked confused. Captain, Omega-7 isn't a standard tactical pattern. Exactly, Elena replied. I just made it up. That's what we do, Doctor. We improvise. The Defiance suddenly accelerated toward the nearest Nexari scout, then spun on its axis and fired a full spread of missiles while moving backward. The maneuver was impossible to predict because it had never been attempted before. 3 missiles, struck home while the Nexari was still calculating optimal defensive responses. Aboard the Nexari flagship, Overlord Zethkar felt a sensation he had not experienced in centuries. Confusion. The unknown vessel's tactics made no logical sense. No species fought this way with such random, chaotic patterns. Analysis, he demanded. The enemy ship appears to be improvising, Overlord. Each maneuver is unique, following no established tactical doctrine. Zethkar's compound eyes narrowed. Through the collective consciousness, he felt the uncertainty of his scouts. They were trained to respond to predictable behavior, to counter established strategies with perfected responses. This was something new. Dispatch the primary battle group. 40 ships. End this anomaly. Back on the Defiance, Arya's voice carried a note of concern. Captain, long-range sensors detect a massive fleet approaching. 40 vessels, each significantly larger than the scouts. Elena felt her heart sink for a moment, then pushed the fear away. Time to intercept? 18 minutes. Then we have 18 minutes to teach the universe something new. She opened communications to the entire ship. All departments, listen carefully. We're about to face odds of 40-1 against an enemy with superior technology. By every logical calculation, we should lose. She paused, looking around the bridge at faces that showed fear but not despair. But logic has a weakness. It can only work with known variables. We are human beings. We don't do logical, we do impossible. In engineering, Ravi had torn apart half the ship's secondary systems, rebuilding them into something that had never existed before. Arya, I need you to overload the deflector array on my mark. It's going to create a feedback pulse that should disrupt their targeting systems. That modification has a 78% chance of destroying our own ship. Yeah, but a 22% chance of working is better than zero, Ravi grinned. Captain, requesting permission to attempt something incredibly stupid. Elena's laughter echoed across the bridge. Permission granted, Chief. Dr. Webb, what's our status on their weaknesses? The scientist had been working frantically at his station. I've identified their coordination frequency. If we can jam it, their ships will lose their ability to function as one mind. They'll have to think individually. Can they do that? Unknown, but based on their social structure, I don't think they've ever had to try. The Nexari battle group emerged from subspace like a swarm of mechanical predators. 40 ships, each one capable of destroying entire fleets, arranged in perfect formation. At their head, Overlord Zethkar's flagship bristled with weapons that could crack moons. Elena watched them approach with the calm of someone who had already accepted death but refused to embrace it. All stations, final preparations. We're going to hit them with everything at once, then we're going to do something they won't expect. What's that, Captain? Chen asked. We're going to survive. The battle began with violence that painted space, in colors that had no names. The Nexari opened fire with coordinated precision, 40 ships targeting the Defiance with mathematical perfection. But the human ship moved like a living thing, diving and spinning through the energy storm with desperate grace. Now, Ravi, Elena shouted. The deflector array exploded in a cascade of energy that washed over the Nexari fleet like a tidal wave of disruption. Targeting systems failed, coordination networks sparked and died, and for the first time in their history, 40 Nexari ships had to think for themselves. The result was chaos. Ships collided as they tried to maintain formation without central coordination. Others fired on their own allies, their individual minds unprepared for independent decision-making. Dr. Webb, the frequency jammer. Activating now. The Nexari coordination network collapsed entirely. 40 ships designed to fight as one mind suddenly found themselves alone in their own thoughts, each captain forced to make decisions without the collective wisdom of the Empire. Elena pressed the advantage. All weapons, fire at will. Show them what human chaos looks like. The Defiance became a force of pure unpredictability. It fired from impossible angles, used debris as cover, and even rammed one Nexari ship while firing point-blank into another. Every move violated standard tactical doctrine, which made it impossible to counter. On his flagship, Overlord Zethkar experienced something no Nexari had felt in millennia: individual thought. Cut off from the collective, his mind raced with unfamiliar sensations: fear, doubt, wonder at an enemy that fought with such beautiful chaos. "How many ships have we lost?" he asked, his voice strange to his own ears. 17, Overlord. "The enemy vessel continues to improvise," Zethkar finished. He understood now. This species, these humans, they didn't fight wars. They fought art. Every battle was a creation, every tactic a masterpiece of desperate innovation. Elena stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the tactical display with amazement. They had done the impossible. They had turned 40 enemy ships into 40 individual problems, each one solvable, if approached with enough creativity. "Captain," Arya said, "I'm detecting something unusual about the enemy flagship. Its behavior patterns are different from the others." Elena studied the readings. The flagship was approaching slowly, weapons powered down. "They're surrendering?" "No," Dr. Webb said with growing excitement. "I think they're learning." The communication channel crackled to life. Overlord Zethkar's voice was different now, carrying nuances the perfect Nexari speech had never possessed before. "Human vessel. I am Overlord Zethkar. I have questions." Elena looked around her bridge, seeing the same amazement in every face. "This is Captain Cross. What questions? How do you think? How do you fight without knowing what you will do next? How do you find strength in thinking alone?" Elena realized they had done more than win a battle. They had given an entire species something it had never possessed: individuality. "Overlord, that's not a question I can answer quickly, but if you're willing to learn, I'm willing to teach." Across space, on ships scattered throughout the battle zone, individual Nexari minds began to experience the terrifying, wonderful sensation of independent thought. Some panicked. Others marveled. All of them changed. The war between the Nexari Empire and the rest of the galaxy had lasted 3,000 years. The war between the Nexari Empire and humanity lasted exactly 4 hours and 37 minutes. But the peace that followed would last forever. Elena stood at the viewport of the Defiance, watching Nexari and human ships working side by side to repair battle damage. In the distance, Overlord Zethkar's flagship had become a school, where former hive-mind entities learned the art of individual creativity. "Arya," she said quietly, "how many humans are we now?" "Current population of the Defiance, 847 souls. Current population of former Nexari learning to think independently, 2.7 million and growing." Elena smiled. Humanity had found its new purpose among the stars, not as conquerors but as teachers. They would show the galaxy that strength came not from thinking as one, but from celebrating the beautiful chaos of thinking as many. The last. Humans in the galaxy had become the first of something new. A species that turned enemies into individuals, that found victory not in destruction, but in liberation. In the end, that was the most human thing of all.